Hello guys, Brad here again, and I felt like throwing a video. Couldn't really think of a good idea, so I kind of borrowed from Christo's um, channel and took his idea for top 5 designer fragrances. So I did a little bit of research this afternoon, and here's what I came up with for top 5. And you might be a little bit surprised by what I picked. For example, 3 pretty popular houses didn't make the cut. Hermes didn't make the cut, not because they're not a good house, I just haven't had a lot of time with their fragrances. I've tried Terre d'Hermes, and like that one, I didn't count the Hermescence line for this one because it is a designer list. So, if you could have included Hermescence line, they probably would have made the list. But just going by the straightforward designer house, I haven't really had enough time. Voyage d'Hermes and Terre d'Hermes wasn't really enough to make a top 5 list. Dior's another one that didn't make the cut. Fahrenheit's nice, but it's very familiar. It's been on the market for a long time. Kind of boring to my nose at this point. I'm not really into the iris thing of the Dior Homme and Dior Homme Intense. So I couldn't really justify putting Dior into the lineup. And Yves Saint Laurent. I like L'Homme, but I don't really get too excited about La Nuit. Rive Gauche is just okay. Live Jazz is nice. Again, so not really enough oomph from that house to put a top 5 out. So number 5, and this was a little tough. When you get towards the bottom of the list, there's maybe some, houses that could maybe squeeze in, but didn't quite make it. I didn't put Calvin Klein in there. I was pretty sure I was going to put Calvin Klein on the list, but didn't quite make it. I went with Zegna for number 5. I think Zegna's a nice house for me because I pretty much tried the entire line except the very first one. Z is a really good one for summer. Intensa, kind of like an Armani Code alternative. Great tonka bean fragrance. Forte, I would call that one sort of like a almost like a La Nuit alternative. So I thought, yeah, Zegna should certainly make my top 5 because I have something from pretty much their entire house in my collection, except for the original one, which didn't really seem too exciting anyway. Number 4, now this is probably one that you will agree belongs in the top 5. Chanel, of course, the Allure line, the Blood de Chanel, Platinum Egoiste. That alone is going to get you in the top 5, I think. And I know a lot of people like some of their more classic offerings, like the original Egoist, going back. Antius, I think, was one. So those old schooler fragrances from like the 80s and 90s. On top of that, could easily make that number 1 for some people, but definitely top 5 worthy for most people. Number 3, I went with Lacoste. In fact, last week I was wearing Style and Play, and I was very pleased with it. Just a nice red apple scent. Of course, Essential, great for spring. There's an Essential Sport. I haven't tried, but I'm getting the feeling that would probably be very pleasing to wear. Booster, a nice minty, soapy kind of a fragrance. Elegance, a great, like a spicy raspberry chocolate fragrance. So I had to put Lacoste in there at number 3. Number 2, I went with Dolce & Gabbana. The One is one of my favorite fragrances from the designer house. So just based on the One, that would almost guarantee this fragrance house a top 5 spot. Of course, you got the One Gentleman, not quite as exciting as the One, but it's a nice Oriental, nice enough. The One Sport, one I should probably check out sometime this year when I get the chance. And you got the original Pour Homme, which is a really nice tobacco citrus, very elegant, and they have one called Byman, which I haven't tried, but if you can find it, check it out. Very rare, and there's a very high reputation in this community because of that. But number 1, I had to go with the same house that I picked as my top house earlier in my channel, Hugo Boss. I mean, I was looking at their list of fragrances, and there were like 7 that they had that I thought were worth checking out. The Emotion line itself is pretty interesting. I think Emotion, the original, was my favorite. You could go with those. Emotion, Flankers, even though I think most of the Flankers aren't nearly as good as the original. But you have Energize and XY, Hugo by Hugo Boss, which used to be my signature scent for quite a while. Elements was one that I have a mini of and thought was pretty interesting, like a a woodsy smell. So those are my top 5 for designer houses. You can comment down below. Let me know what you think of my list. I think that's pretty representative of my taste. You know, some of the underdog houses. Kenzo didn't quite make the list. I was thinking they were going to make the list, but you know, Lyle Parkenzo and the Indigo Edition and Boise didn't quite make it. It was kind of like with Calvin Klein, just right there on the cusp of 5. So yeah, I think that's pretty good for what I like right there. Top 5 designer. Thanks for watching. Comment down below, and I'll talk to you guys later.